Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on community-to-community learning in Hinton, enhancing wildfire resilience with perspectives from Logan Lake in Jasper. My name is Brooklyn Rushton, and I'm the Strategic Adaptation Fellow with the Resilience Institute. And we're a national charitable organization with deep roots originally in the Bow Valley. Now we're working across Canada in different regions, including Hinton and Jasper. It's wonderful to see so many folks join us online today. And to open today's conversation and really ground us in place, I'm honored to invite Chief Jim Smith from the town of Hinton to share some opening remarks.
Good morning. Good afternoon. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walk this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community on these sacred lands for generations to come.
Thank you, Chief Smith, for the warm welcome and for the acknowledgement for this afternoon's event. So this event is part of the Resilience Institute's broader commitment to fostering community-to-community learning. And really what that is all about is by exchanging practical lessons, lived experiences, and strategies amongst communities at different stages of building resilience to the impacts of a changing climate. And this afternoon's event will begin with a special screening of The Test, which is a 1-hour documentary that tells the inspiring story of Logan Lake, British Columbia, which became the first community in Canada to achieve official Fire Smart status in 2013. And Logan Lake's story really shows what's possible when an entire community comes together around building resilience to wildfire. And after the film, we'll move into a panel discussion with fire professionals from Logan Lake, Jasper, and Hinton, who will share their experiences and insights on building resilience at the community level. But before we begin, I want to share a few housekeeping notes. So this event is being recorded for those who are unable to attend live. Please use the Q&A function in Zoom to submit any questions throughout the session. And my colleague Cassidy will be sharing links and updates in the chat, including information on how to get involved or learn more about this work. And before we begin, I want to offer just a gentle note. While The Test is really an inspiring story of community resilience, it does include scenes related to wildfire. So if you or your community have experienced a wildfire event, this may bring up some strong emotions or difficult memories. I actually live in Jasper, and so I can say that it does bring up memories for me from going through the fire in July of 2024. And just know that you're not alone. If at any point you need to step away from the call, take a break or reach out for support, that's completely okay. My colleague Cassidy posted a link in the chat just to some wellness and mental health resources from Alberta Health Services related to wildfire. And then after the movie, we'll be transitioning to a live panel discussion at around 3 p.m. So if you prefer to just pause the film and return later, you're more than welcome to do so as well. And with that, we'll begin a screening of The Test. So just give me 1 second. Panel discussion, and I'm fortunate to be joined by fire professionals from Logan Lake, Jasper, and Hinton, who will share their own experiences and lessons learned from their efforts to strengthen resilience to wildfire at the community level. Following the discussion, we'll open the floor to your questions, and a reminder that you can submit questions at any time using the Q&A function in Zoom. And now I'm pleased to introduce our panelists. So I'll start with Chief Jim Smith, who serves as the fire chief for the town of Hinton. As a Canadian Armed Forces veteran with over 30 years of experience in fire service, Jim brings a wealth of experience in structural, industrial, and wildland firefighting. He served as the operations chief during the 2013 Southern Alberta floods and is a graduate of Dalhousie University and Lakeland College. Next, I'll introduce Chief Greg Van Tighem, who's the former fire chief and director of protective services for the Municipality of Jasper. With over 25 years of experience guiding fire smart fuel management and public education in Jasper, Greg is a recognized leader in wildfire preparedness. He holds a bachelor's degree in emergency management with distinction and now serves as a contract trainer with Fire Smart Alberta and the Fire Smart coordinator for the Municipality of Jasper, and is a training officer with the Jasper Park Lodge Fire Department. And last but not least is Chief Doug Wilson, who is the fire chief for the District of Logan Lake, British Columbia. Doug began his fire service career in 1989 with the City of Langley as a paid on-call member, earning firefighter level 1 and level 2 certifications. And after relocating to Logan Lake in 2015, he joined Logan Lake Fire and Rescue and quickly rose throughout the ranks by being promoted to captain in 2018, assistant fire chief in 2020, and fire chief later the same year. And we're very grateful for all of them for being here this afternoon with us in this virtual space and for the knowledge and experiences that they'll share with us as well. So I hope everyone virtually welcomes our panel with us here. And so just to begin, and I'll maybe have the panelists just turn their cameras on and unmute here. I'd like to start with a question for all of you. Really, what first motivated you to work in the wildfire preparedness and resilience space, and what continues to inspire you and keep you committed to this work?
Jim Smith, really, the Fire Smart adventure that we're actually going on in the town of Hinton, it started back in 2011, and we have actually looked at moving this program forward in the town of Hinton with the South Fire Guard mulching project that we're doing, asking for grants, and it's really kind of trying to forward everything in the town of Hinton for a safer community for all of us. And with the help of our council, we've got some budget dollars as well. And we're actually starting a lot of the training as a fire department and starting to do some community stuff. So we're really excited to move forward in everything we're doing so far in the town.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief Smith. And Chief Wilson, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, as a more structural firefighter starting my career down in the lower mainland, as I transitioned up to Logan Lake, I worked with Chuck Wilkins, who was doing the Fire Smart sprinkler program that Logan Lake is doing. Seeing the devastation that happened in other people's communities, that's what brought me aboard to continue the efforts that Logan Lake has done in the past under our chief Chief Layton, going forward to continue the mitigation, the education to our community.
Thanks, Chief Wilson. And Chief Van Tighem, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Brooklyn. And I guess I'd want to put a shout out to the people of Hinton for being so very supportive of us Jasper folks during the Jasper event in last July, August. So Hinton really did go above and beyond, and they still are. So thanks very much to you folks if you're out there. I think what first motivated me was the fact that I lived in a national park, Jasper National Park, and I owned a home and had a family there. It's a very densely forested community. And I joined the fire department in the early 90s and soon became aware that one of our biggest hazards and concerns was wildfire. So I was fortunate to work with a number of, I guess, some of the first people that initiating Fire Smart in Canada, and Alan Mustaver and Dave Smith and a few others. So that's really what got me going. And then just as my career progressed, taking on more responsibility with community safety planning and whatnot, and really understanding the hazards, that really kept me engaged, and having the opportunity to work with the community, that a lot of people really took this seriously, and it was kind of rewarding to see the improvements. And I am retired, but still working in the Fire Smart world. And I think the reason for that is I still see the hazard being there. A lot of the things we knew back in the 90s and 2000s are still the same. They haven't changed, but there's still a lot of room for some behavioral change with the public. So that keeps me motivated.
Thanks, Chief Van Tighem. Next question I'm curious about is, really this conversation is about building resilience to wildfire. And I'm curious to get your perspective on what does a resilient community look like, and what does that mean to you when we talk about wildfire? And is there an initiative or an approach that your community or a community that you're inspired by has taken that has been particularly effective in building that resilience? And Chief Tighem, I'll start with you for this question.
Okay, well, I think a resilient or wildfire resilient community is one that is engaged at all levels. Starting first with the homeowners or the property owners, the individuals, using and utilizing fire smart mitigation principles on their properties, on their structures. And then having a highly trained fire department that's well resourced with good support from the municipality, a strong mayor and council to lead the emergency management team. And then even further up the line to the provincial responsibilities with the Alberta Emergency Management AG and their tie-in, their supports that they offer, and all the way up to the federal government. So when you get all those ducks in a row, I think that leads to a more resilient community. And the initiative or approach that our community has taken that has been effective, I think, is we started way back with community work bees, and basically it was a community cleanup day in a designated area, and we usually ended it with a hot dog barbecue and a kind of a social aspect. And I think we've carried that on for over 25 years now. A number of neighborhoods in Jasper have been involved since day one, including Lake Edith subdivision, which was the second ever recognized Canadian fire smart neighborhood. So it's I think they're very effective just to get the people together and do a lot of work. They understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then you end up with the social aspect, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm curious, just a bit of follow up on there. I mean, I live in Jasper as well, so I know about the Lake Edith area, and I know that you've done a ton of work in that space. I'm curious, and I feel like after the fire has been a huge success story, and I'm curious if you could just speak a little bit more about how that approach worked and kind of the collaboration of that neighborhood, especially given that there's a lot of people who it's maybe their second home in that space, so it's not their primary location.
Yeah, Lake Edith did lose 3 structures out of the 50. One of the structures was a garage, but they did lose 2 cottages. And but there had been a lot of fuel reduction work, so fuel mitigation work around and immediately adjacent to all the structures there. But more importantly, the owners of those cottages are very engaged, and they've really taken the the basics of fire smart mitigation to heart. So we'll probably talk about it later, but we talk about the immediate and intermediate zones where you want to remove and reduce combustibles. Well, the majority of those folks there have really cleaned up their properties, and they really are following the Fire Smart Canada principles. So I think that led to them contributing to them, coming out of this event with very little damage.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And Chief Smith, I'll pass over the question to you. What does that resilient community look like? What does it mean? And if there's any approaches or initiatives you'd want to highlight through your work in Hinton or elsewhere that you've worked on in the past.
I think I want to echo Chief Tighem's comments about the municipal, provincial, and federal monies and grants and support and training. But I think the biggest thing for a resilient community is education. Education for the citizens, education for the fire departments, education for administration and council of the community. I think everything working together with an educated community about fire smart and wildfire resiliency is definitely the way for a community to look at being a resilient community for wildfire.
Thanks, Chief Smith, and Chief Wilson. I'll pass over to you as well for that question.
Yeah, I echo both the chiefs for sure. Community starts with the individuals within the community. We'll work our way out. I am there to support the community in any way I can. We definitely go street to street. I have a smaller neighborhood, supporting them with however we see, whether it's bins to remove some of the yard waste, definitely barbecues for sure. We've touched on some goat mitigation, cattle mitigation within our community, and the youth within our community to help with a lot of that mitigation out in the forest area.
Wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the youth program that Logan Lake has, and it's mentioned in the video for the attendees that we'll watch after. I think it's a really powerful program, and some of the work that you do with the schools as well.
Yeah, I engage with the youth quite a bit in my community on different levels. Most certainly, we've been fortunate enough to get grant money to hire 8 of our local high school students year after year. This has been done for probably the last 15 to 18 years. It gets them off the couch, away from the screens, out into the bush. They learn what required to make it burn, the 3 sides of a fire. They also learn that they're not just chopping a tree down, that they're limbing the tree and what type of trees that they're dealing with. So it's a lot of education for these students. A lot of the time it's their first ever job. So we run through the whole program. It's not just throw them out there and away they go. We feel that that has been a huge effect for our community. To this day, we still implement that. Even during the fire, I've had the students that back in the day covered the area that we had the fire call me to let me know that they're proud that that was what they worked on. So it definitely, I believe, had a factor to play in saving our community.
Curious, Chief Wilson, I'll pass the next question specifically to you. And, Logan Lake is rarely recognized as a leader in community-based wildfire resilience and being the first community in Canada to be Fire Smart recognized. So from your perspective, speaking a little bit more about the work in your community, what has made Logan Lake's approach so successful? And what advice would you offer to other communities that are maybe just starting into this space and kind of want to follow in the footsteps of Logan Lake?
So it begins with education, and you just got to keep pushing on it. You keep going after the people, keep driving it into them. They were a little resistant to some of the stuff. But you got to think outside the box sometimes. Some of our hilly areas with the winds that we have weren't conducive to some of the burning that we would like to have done. And we brought in goats and put them in there. I got some feedback because the dogs were barking at the goats and this and that. Cattle, the same problem. You got logistics with both, making sure that they have water and whatnot for what they're doing out there. You've got to look at the big picture and see what works for your community. It's never finished. You've got to keep going after it, keep working at it. You may think you're completed around the community, but it starts again as the regrowth continues.
Awesome. And I know Logan Lake has a community forest around the town site there. I'm curious if you could speak a little bit more about that, and that's highlighted in the test as well, and how big of a role that played in the wildfire preparedness efforts, and kind of how does it feed into that collaborative community-based approach as well?
Sure. We have a forest management team that assists us with the community forest. Logan Lake owns the rights to that. We get a lot of say on what they do. They can't just go down chopping trees. They have to have a prescription ready. It has to be presented to council. It has to be signed off in mayor, council, myself, the local indigenous neighbors, so that we kind of control what they can do and what they can't do. Certainly any profit they make, they put back into our community in that forested area. We've got all kinds of bicycle trails, walking trails, hiking trails, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. They've recently put lights up that run by solar, so you can cross-country and snowshoe in the evening type of things. So we have the control of what happens around our community forest.
Yeah, I think community forests are a very interesting model to be using because it has so many benefits to community, and alongside that wildfire resilience building as well. So I know that's highlighted in the test. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I know we talked a little bit about, that how it's really a collaborative approach when we're building resilience. And I'm curious if we could also just speak a little bit more about what are the different roles that people play, whether it's a resident, a government from different levels, municipal, provincial, federal, businesses, local organizations. What role do those all play, and why is it so important that these groups work together? Chief Smith, I'll start with you on this question.
Back to the community itself, I think with it starts with the individual homeowner, right up until the federal government. Everyone is involved with needing and getting education on what is Fire Smart, what does Fire Smart look like for their individual homes, what does Fire Smart look as an individual community, and learning and educating themselves on everything that's out there. Then the internet itself has got just hockey sock full of information that you can find out about the stuff about FireSmart, sorry, around your home, around the community, and also assisting those around your home. Some people may need help with assisting, and they may need help with educating, and they may not know and understand. And this is the first step, getting to know the people in your community, such as the fire department that can help out with FireSmart, with our forestry folks, with the municipal folks and the websites, also with the provincial websites and FireSmart people. All those individuals will help get you the information that you need to move your community forward and to be more resilient. But it definitely starts with the individual and the individual homeowner.
So thanks, Chief Smith. And Chief Wilson, I'll pass over to you for that to kind of add on anything that you have thoughts on.
Sure, and I agree with Chief there. Certainly, your biggest investment is always your home for most everybody. So it's got to start with them, and they've got to have some role in this to protect their investment. The fire department is certainly going to be there to support them, and I encourage people within my community to come to me if they've got concerns, and I will be happy to go out and address them. If I don't go, my Fire Smart coordinator will go out. You know, we get out into the neighborhood. Our community has been super supportive of it from the businesses. I've talked them into Fire Smarting theirs to show by an example of what's available out there. You know, I have open houses. I invite the local nurseries to supply the Fire Smart plants, particularly for my community in the area that we live within, trying to get people to get rid of some of them old cedars that were very popular back in the 80s. For the privacy, I understand that, but they need to talk to the nursery people to find out what's available. So the nurseries have been very good about coming into my community and displaying that stuff. Our local businesses have helped supply foods, whether it's pizza, hot dogs, buns. They barely go over cost so that I can get more of it out there for our community. So there's a lot of people that play into this for sure. It's not just me, my whole community comes together, which we did during the fire. If you have a chance to definitely see that, you'll see how there was some business that stepped right up to support all the firefighters that came in there, and they still support today.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, I mean, living in Jasper and watching the recovery and the response, you really see that collaboration come together in crisis. And then if you can kind of foster that before the fire comes, you know, even better. And I know a lot of that work was done in Logan Lake as well before, which was part of its success story. So that's great to hear. And Chief Tighem, I'm curious if you want to add anything to that question, really that benefit of collaboration amongst different groups in the community.
Well, I certainly agree with both Jim and Doug. It does start with the individual. It's not just Fire Smart though, it's also emergency management, emergency planning. The individuals need to understand their municipal plans, what their responsibilities are within those plans. That was shown dramatically in Jasper when the evacuation took place. Evacuating over 25,000 people in 6 to 8 hours or whatever it was. The majority of the residents that were involved in that evacuation knew what their responsibility was because they had been educated by the municipality and by Parks Canada. So that contributed to making that evacuation safe. As it turned out, it was extremely safe. It did take a long time. There was some obviously people are going to be upset about sitting in their car for 6 or 8 hours and ending up in a place they didn't really want to be, but the reality is everybody got out safely. And then with the businesses, the same thing. It's the businesses need to understand their responsibilities. within the municipal planning and also their responsibilities with their staff. Examples of that was we had numerous businesses in Jasper that educated their staff prior to, and some of them do it on an annual basis to, evacuation planning and things like keeping your car full of gas and having a 72-hour kit in the trunk and those kind of things. The municipality obviously have the role of having those plans. They have the role of initiating those field management programs, those kind of things, working with the mayor and council and with other agencies and other levels of government. So yeah, it is a whole community responsibility, and it goes outside of the community as well. But the biggest thing I think is having collaboration beforehand and having those relationships beforehand and having an understanding. Everybody has an understanding at their own level of what their responsibilities are. And then when the emergency does happen, there's no hesitation. It's an unfortunate situation, but you can get through it safely.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks, Chief Van Tighem. I'm curious if you could also speak a little bit more to, I know living in Jasper, there's a really, really close relationship between the municipality and the park. And I think that's quite a unique relationship there. And I know you were quite involved with kind of a lot of that proactive work before. Could you speak a little bit more about that? And I think that was a big reason of why, the evacuation was so successful as well.
Yeah, that goes back to having those relationships beforehand. And the Municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada have been working together, since the inception of our municipality, far back as I think it was 2003. Admittedly, we've had our bumps. It hasn't always gone smooth. We do an annual exercise together. I know a few of them have been a little bumpy, but there was an exercise just prior to the big event in July last year that went very smoothly, and that was indicated too in the way the two agencies work together throughout the Jasper complex. So yeah, it's really important, especially in a situation where you're living, a municipality within a national park where you've got two levels of government. But I think what makes that work is the people, the individuals that were involved at the table. They had the trust in each other, so it really, really helped.
Thanks so much. And I know we in this panel so far, we talked a lot about, it begins with you, it begins with the homeowner, the residents of a community. So I'm curious for individuals and families in our virtual audience who really want to get involved and take action, especially as we head into the summer. What are some of those tangible first steps that they can take, and what programs would you and resources and tools would you recommend that they look into and start to foster in their own communities? And Chief Van Tighem, I'll start with you because I know you've been really actively involved with Fire Smart Alberta and have a lot of experience in this space.
Okay, Fire Smart Canada promotes a program called the Neighborhood Recognition Program, and that's designed to not only involve individuals in a structure, their home basis, but also to involve the neighborhood around them. So there are some defined neighborhoods where you can easily say that's a neighborhood, but then there's also some that are a couple of blocks in the middle of the town kind of thing that establish themselves as neighborhoods. But the way the program works is obviously there has to be an interest from that neighborhood. There's usually one person that takes lead, and we call that person the champion. The champion would get a hold of the local fire department. The local fire department has resources through Fire Smart Canada and Alberta, where they can provide Fire Smart specialists, so neighborhood recognition specialists, to assist the champion. They form a small committee. They come up with some plans and objectives on how they're going to try and make their neighborhood safer, following proper Fire Smart mitigation activities. And they usually would do 1 day or a couple of day cleanup day or a work day, followed with a barbecue social. The fire department, the specialists will help them along. They don't do everything for them, but they assist them. And if they do that successfully, they do have the opportunity to apply for national recognition, which provides them with some incentives, both monetary and some other resources. So it's actually a lot of fun to get the neighborhood together. Fire Smart does begin with the individual, but if only a few individuals in one neighborhood are actually taking care of their properties and mitigating the hazards, and the others aren't, well, chances are that that's going to affect the whole neighborhood. So it's really important that we get neighborhoods involved, not just individuals.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I know for folks online, we did have a similar event in Canmore last night with some of the fire chiefs on here, and one of the fire chiefs said it's really about neighbors helping neighbors, and I think that really rang true to me, and really just having that whole community approach to building this resilience. Chief Wilson, I'm curious if you want to add on to anything really about those, what are those tangible first steps that folks can take, and in any programs that you would recommend they look into?
Yeah, your evacuation plans in the community, don't be afraid to go to your local fire department or emergency coordinator and find out how they work, what to do. I knew prior to the order that was given in my community, I was going to need a bus. There was people with mobility issues that did not have motor vehicles. Yeah, you reach out to some of the neighbors. Trust me, they're busy getting their own personal stuff together. They may not have available seating. They may have their own challenges within their own children, autism, other special needs. That all has to be addressed, and don't wait until the day of the fire. Definitely go talk to your fire department, see what resources they can help you with. The community in my case came together. I had a bus under 30 minutes to remove the folks that needed to be removed from the community that didn't have it. So certainly don't wait until the day of. Go talk to your local fire department today and get some of those answers that you're looking for addressed, whatever the challenges may be within your family or your neighborhood that you see is available there. So that would be what I would add to that, I think.
Thanks, Chief Wilson. And Chief Smith, I'll end the last question off with you there.
Yeah, I echo the other chiefs' resources. Right now, we're taking training, a home assessment training for the fire department, actually on the 10th of May. We're doing a lot of training internally for our fire folks, but we do have a lot of information and resources at the fire department. Don't be shy in coming by and asking for those resources and asking for that information at the fire hall. We like to, after the 10th, we like to ask people to sign up for home assessments, and we can go out as a fire department or as individuals and help with home assessments around the community. We have also things set aside for lists for 72-hour kits and evacuation plan. If you look on the Town of Hinton website, we do have an evacuation plan up there. We also have other information there about fire smarting your property and fire smarting your community. Remembering that we only have 40 firefighters, so it's really good that we work together as a community because the fire department can't do it all. There's no way we can do it. There's more people on this meeting here today than there is firefighters. So I just ask that you come by and we'll try to get that information for you. And if we can't find that information, we can lead you in the right direction to get that information to help you with fire smarting yourself and your community. We really appreciate that. And also working with that, we have got some grants for fire smarting in town, the South Fire Guard that we do have mulched already. It's already completed. Some other things that we're working on in the community for fire smart as well.
Thanks, Chief Smith. And there are some resources that my colleague Cassidy has added into the chat as well with some fire smart resources on there. So feel free to take a peek through those. And yeah, like Chief Smith said, talk to your local fire department. They're the experts in the community. That brings us to the end of our formal question period here. So if there are any questions from the audience, feel free to type them into the Q&A box. It's just on the bottom of your screen there, and we can answer those for you. We do have one question from Dennis here that reads, is the town of Hinton going to continue with the fire break? And is the Trans Alberta going to do their own on their right of ways on the transmission line so the poles don't burn? So some of the work in that space. So I'm curious, Chief Smith, if you know anything about that.
Absolutely. Great question. Right now the mulching project on the South Fire Guard is completed. We are working with Trans Mountain at this time. They're doing a continuous care and maintenance of their particular pipeline. We're working hand in hand with those folks as well. We're also working with West Fraser and some of the other community groups on some other projects going forward as well, just to improve on the fire guard and improve on some of the South fire protections.
Any folks have any other questions, feel free to add them in the chat there. We have another question from George that asks, can insurance companies help with some of this work? I'm curious if anyone has any answer to that. I know that's kind of a dynamic space often with insurance companies. Yeah, go ahead, Chief Smith.
Yeah, we have a couple of grant applications. They really want to help out the town of Hinton as far as grant applications go. So they're really stepping up and helping there. There has been some talk about insurance companies giving rebates to those folks that are having home assessments. I'm not sure about that right now, but there'd be something to ask your insurance company about is if you get a home assessment done on your home by the fire department, will you be getting a rebate to your insurance? So that's a great question. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it depends on your insurance company as well. I know some are more proactive in some of this space. So, you know, look at your policy and speak to your agent, I think is a really good base. And Chief Tighem and Chief Wilson, anything to add to that insurance question?
I know that Cooperators is the only company that I'm aware of that has been supporting FireSmart. There may be others, but they have been supporters of the community grant funding and other projects in the past. I do suggest, just after living through the Jasper situation, which is still ongoing, is that any individual really does take a close look at their individual insurance policies. You really need to understand what it says and what it doesn't say, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the proper coverage, it could be devastating. So.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like all of us in Jasper have learned to really read our insurance policies properly and especially post-fire, but I would say definitely really know it pre-fire, and if you can do some work beforehand, it will save a lot.
Another tip there is take photos and videos of all your belongings.
Yes.
On a regular basis.
Yeah, and have a list of things you want to take, and not only the things in the 72-hour kit, but also the things that are really important to you as well, just as a note there to add on to that. We have another question from Joanne that asks, is there grant money available for home roof sprinklers?
I'm assuming that's specific to Hinton. Is it?
Yes, there is. Right now, we've applied for a grant just for that. We have not received any information back that we were successful in that grant. And that's Intact Insurance that has that grant, and we just haven't received any information back from those folks yet.
I have one other question from an anonymous attendee that is asking, can a community do anything about yards that have 80-foot spruce trees almost touching your roof?
Well, I could speak to Jasper, which is it's extremely challenging there because we're in a national park and technically you cannot remove trees without permits. And there's also a thing called the bird window, or the migratory bird window. I guess it's a time frame when the birds are nesting where you're not allowed to disturb any trees, which is pretty much from May till I think the end of August. So I think that is in place everywhere in Canada. But just because you have a tree in your yard doesn't necessarily mean it's a hazard. So, I mean, it has to be close enough to something that it can catch fire to. So FireSmart principles don't rule out having trees. It just making sure that they would not contribute to the burning of a structure. So I don't know what the situation is in Hinton. Perhaps Jim could speak to that.
Yeah, so I agree with Chief there, Van Tighem. We need to do the home assessment course first, and then we can get out and do a home assessment. So please invite us to your home and we'll do that assessment. It's outside only. We're not doing anything on the inside, just the outside. And we'd love to come by and do a home assessment of everyone's property.
And I'm wondering, someone could speak a little bit to, like, there's zones around a home, right? Generally, is there a space that you want to have it kind of clear of shrubs and trees? And I guess it really depends on, what species of trees around your house, but is there kind of a general rule of thumb people can maybe look at their own home, this evening to kind of see?
I was going to throw that in at the end here, but there are 3 recognized zones within the Fire Smart principles. So there's the immediate zone, the intermediate zone, and the extended zone. My personal opinion is the immediate zone is the most important and probably the one that people can do the most mitigation work. So that is the structure itself and 1.5 meters around the footprint of the structure. And that includes any substructures. So if you have a garage, you would apply the same principles to your garage or any outbuildings. The idea behind the immediate zone is there should be no combustibles. So nothing that could burn. And when I say combustibles, when there's a wildfire, anything that can burn is fuel to that fire and will burn. And if it's within that 1.5 meter zone of your structure, that structure will also ignite. So what I was going to leave people with, same as last night, is when you leave here today or this afternoon, take a walk around your property, look at that immediate zone, look at the structure itself. Is there vulnerabilities in the structure? Things like wooden combustible roof, or you've got gutters full of needles, or you have combustible siding. Other things like what's up against the structure. It could be cedar bushes, any kind of flammable vegetation. So the idea there is just keep everything that's combustible away from the structure. It's not so bad to have combustible siding if you have nothing to catch that siding on fire. The 2 key things are going to be the roofs and the immediate zone around the footprint. The other thing to look at is your vents and openings, soffits and things like that, so they cannot allow embers and whatnot to enter into attic spaces or eave spaces. A number of homes are lost in wildland fire disasters because of the fact that embers are brought inside of attic spaces and whatnot. So, but yeah, just probably we handed out the booklet yesterday. We're not able to do that today, but go to the Fire Smart Alberta, Fire Smart Canada website. There's a program called Fire Smart 101. It takes about 45 minutes. I just encourage everybody, if you haven't done that, take that 45-minute program and you will know exactly what you need to do. And then as Chief Smith already indicated, contact the local fire department. They'd be more than willing to come and help you.
So thank you for all that information. That's super, super helpful. We have another question here that says, there's a notion that ratepayers rely on the municipality to save the town. And I know we talked a lot about kind of that advice for individuals, but I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to that point and what advice you would all have for really saying that it starts with the individual and the residents.
Who's taking it?
I'm trying to do this mute button thing, but it's not working, and I'm having a heck of a time. So I have to go to this screen here on my phone. Sorry about that. Could you repeat that question again, please?
Yeah. So it's that there's a notion that ratepayers rely on the municipality solely to save the town. And I know we talked a lot about this, when you think about your fire department, it's not like you have 500 firefighters to be able to do this work. So, what advice would you have for really honing in that message that it starts with the individual, and that the individual has a huge role to play? If there's any other advice on that space?
Yeah, basically just to repeat what we've already said, it really starts with the homeowner. The reliance on the municipality can only do so much. They look after the critical infrastructure. They look after a lot of the um, town structures that require being looked after, as well as much as we can do as a fire department. We're limited in size and equipment and people. So this whole program relies on the homeowner to look after themselves and their neighbors and to be a resource champion or a fire smart champion in their neighborhood. More than one is excellent. And so that we could, as a group, we can get the whole community done instead of relying just strictly on the municipality or the provincial government or the federal government. It starts with the homeowner, starts with the individual, and we're there to support the best we can as a fire service and as a municipality.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chief Smith. It's really about like enhancing the capacity of your whole community, right? So, and that's a great point. There's a question here as well as what are your thoughts on large volume sprinklers and mitigation systems and that style of equipment for, you know, when the fire does come into town?
I can speak from Jasper, but that's may not be applicable to everybody. But sprinklers have a lot of benefits. Large volume sprinklers around the perimeter of neighborhoods, communities, towns have been proven to be very beneficial. In fact, they were used in Jasper, and there are places where you can see that it made a big difference. The problem with sprinklers is you need a water source, and I think Doug could really add to this. As we saw in the video yesterday, they had a kind of I think an ingenious way that they provided the water, because what happens in a major wildfire when it enters the community and structures start to burn, you lose water pressure, because as the buildings burn, the services going to those structures is exposed, and basically the water is free flowing. So at some point during a major disaster like that, you will lose water. And so if you have sprinklers, you need water. So a lot of cases, you need a secondary water source. So you need a static source from a lake or a river or something, or maybe pre-planned tanks or pumpkins and things like that. But I'm going to pass it on to Doug, though.
Yeah, from what I'm gathering, they assume that you're going to hook up to a hydrant. Not every community has a fire hydrant system. There's no community that will support all that type of water flowing at once. In my case, in my province, the city of Vancouver couldn't sustain it. I know Logan Lake would not sustain it. So in our case, we draw water out of our local lake, dropping it by 2 feet between what I was taking and what the helicopters were removing to battle the fire. We are fortunate to be in a province where there is plenty of lakes around to be getting a water source out of, but to think you're going to turn on a large sprinkler and just let it go for days on end, that's just not feasible.
Well, thanks for that answer. We do have another question here. Are fire retardant foams an effective way of protecting a home in the short term?
I can take that. Yes, they are. I've been donated a large 1,100 liter ladder of retardant that I am placing around our major infrastructures in my community. The problem with that is you got to reapply it every year. When you apply it, you got to make sure that you don't have a large rain event within the next few days of applying that product. It'll just dilute it. So yes, I do believe that foam product will be effective, but do you have the time to put it on as that fire is coming in? You know, I had 10 days to watch a fire come to me. You look at West Kelowna or Jasper, they literally had it less than an hour, and you don't have the time to put that on and apply it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that answer, Chief Wilson. There's a question specifically for Hinton, so we'll probably direct this towards Chief Smith. Is Hinton planning to take out beetle-killed trees around the town, parks, and green areas?
Correct. We are. It's going to take some time. We have a grant for a 10-year mitigation plan to do just that around the town, as well as fire smart some of the wooded areas around town. That is the plan. Again, it's just going to take time. It just takes a lot of planning on the fire department's part. Plus, we have some contractors coming in to help us with that. So it's going to hopefully be sometime September, October that we're going to have that plan in place so that we can have some sort of direction and route to mitigate the trees and the vegetation around town.
Thanks, Chief Smith. There's a question here related to the course that Chief Van Tighem mentioned, the Fire Smart 101 course. And Joanne's asking, in the past, taking the 101 course increase our eligibility in Hinton to apply for grant funding. Is that still the case? I'm curious if anyone knows.
I think anything you do will help your chances. So if you can get everybody engaged, the more you do, the better it's going to look on your application. So I don't think there's specific criteria, depending on what grant funding you're speaking of, but the community day grant, the $500 one, I think it'd be great if everybody that applied for that took the Fire Smart 101 as a minimum. That gives them the basic understanding and it helps them utilize that funding in a better way, I guess.
There's a specific question here for Chief Wilson. It says, in the video, you mentioned that in the past, you would tend to evacuate all residents when the fire is imminent to ensure everyone's safety. In the Logan Lake fire, you were able to utilize the community groups and they became a great resource for you. Can you expand on that?
Certainly. We got the Highland Valley Copper Mine Tech Resources, one of North America's largest open mine copper pits. They have a ton of resources that became available to us, from generators to lighting sources to their bus. And that's the resource we took. They also have some large water moving vehicles, weren't legal on the highway, but we had access to them if we felt we needed them, and we would have brought them in and apologized to Modi after the fact. You just got to do what you got to do in a time of need. So yeah, the community definitely came together. Tech brought me a bus, a legal highway transport bus that was capable to put these elderly folks on that did not have motor vehicle transportation of their own, to remove them from our community, and took them straight into Kamloops to a waiting hotel where they received the needs they needed without being shuttled all over the place. So yeah, the community definitely comes together. Search and rescue is involved in that. Our local businesses are all involved in that.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief Wilson, for mentioning that. I know in Jasper, there was a lot of that going on as well. We had some rafting companies step up and take their buses and get folks out of Jasper as well. And so it is a beautiful thing in kind of those situations as well. One more question here at this moment is for Chief Smith, is what are the fire regulations at this time of year in Hinton regarding open burning, fireworks, and other related activities?
Great question. So the regulations are, we do have bylaws for warming and cooking fires in backyards. We do have bylaws for not using fireworks. We also have bylaws for other types of clearing fires within the town limits. Outside the town limits, we have no control. It's either the forestry folks or it's Yellowhead County, but in town, we do have bylaws specific to warming and cooking fires. And if you have any questions on that, please ask the fire department and we'd be more than happy to share that with you. It's also available on our website, on the Town of Hinton website. So please make yourself available to that as well. There's just so much information there for you, especially from a bylaw and emergency management fire department point of view.
Thanks, Chief Smith. I think it's often, we forget that this spring is often a high fire season, right? It's easy to get a bit complacent sometimes with the fact that the winter was just over. So I think that's really good to highlight. That's the end of our questions, unless any people in the audience have any other questions that they want to add into the Q&A. But in the meantime, I just want to thank the panelists for the rich discussion. And, you know, these three fire chiefs are really leaders in the space across Canada. So being able to really learn from you all is a great pleasure. And I really appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us. I do want to mention that the Resilience Institute, we are partnering with the town of Hinton. We have previously done a climate risk assessment, and we're now working on a community resilience plan under a program that we work with the Red Cross on called Roots for Resilience. We'll add a link in the chat to look at that as well. And yeah, it's been great to work with the town of Hinton, and there's a lot of amazing work going on building resilience in that space. And I think, you know, I want to just reiterate some points that were mentioned in this panel. Was really, I think events like this and all the knowledge that we were able to hear from our panelists today really reminds us that resilience doesn't just happen in isolation. It's not just on the municipal front. It's not just on the resident front, not just on the businesses. It's when everyone comes together, they share their experiences, they collaborate, and you keep learning. And so I hope some of the knowledge that was shared today really has inspired all of you in the virtual audience to really figure out what your role is in advancing wildfire resilience, and to work collaboratively amongst your neighbors and other people in your community. And I hope you also share some of the learnings today with folks that you know, whether it's in your family or your friends or your colleagues at work. I also want to remind folks that we are welcoming some donations to offset some of the costs of this event, as we are a charitable organization. And I just want to say a huge thanks again to our panelists for being a part of this afternoon's event. And I wish everyone online a great rest of your day.